Hi, Writers. Cruz here. Thank you so much for joining me. In this video, we are going to be working on an essay where we analyze arguments presented. This essay is connected with the GED. However, if you are needing practice on writing an essay where you analyze the arguments presented by a writer, this is a great opportunity for you. So let's take a look at this uh, question, and then we'll take a look at the passage, and then we will begin our writing. Please note, writers, that I will definitely have comprehensive timestamps available for you all so that you are able to skip to certain parts. Thank you again so much for joining me. Thank you for subscribing, and I hope this video ensures your success. Okay, first thing we're going to do, writers, is we are going to read the question that is presented. The article presents arguments from both supporters and critics of daylight saving time who disagree about the practice's impact on energy consumption and safety. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is sort of analyze how the question is being set up. So we see this question in three separate paragraphs here, you could argue. And so, in looking at the first part, this first paragraph is basically letting you know, summarizing what the article is essentially about. Let's move on into the next paragraph here. In your response, analyze both positions presented in the article to determine which one is best supported. Use relevant and specific evidence from the article to support your response. Okay, here is really where the question begins. And so it's asking here, analyze both positions presented in the article to determine which one is best supported, meaning which argument has the best support. The one that supports daylight saving time or the one that opposes daylight saving time. Now let's take a look at the next part here where it says use relevant and specific evidence from the article to support your response. So, what this is saying here is that they're expecting you to use text evidence from the article to, again, make your point. All right, now the next part. It says type your response in the box below. You should expect to spend up to 45 minutes in planning, drafting, and editing your response. Now, notice how it didn't say anything about reading. So it's mostly focused on the planning, drafting, and editing of your response. And so now, writers, I am pausing here because now we're going to actually read the article. So let's take a look at analysis of daylight saving time, and we'll look at paragraph 1. Here we go. Twice a year, most Americans adjust their clocks before bedtime to prepare for daylight saving time, or DST. Every spring, clocks are moved ahead 1 hour. In the fall, they are moved back 1 hour, and all to maximize the benefits of the sun. DST was first implemented in the United States in 1918 to conserve resources for the war effort, though proponents encouraged its adoption long before then. Benjamin Franklin, for example, touted the idea of DST to citizens of France way back in 1784. Paragraph 1, writers, is really focused on the historical context. So it's giving us the history of DST. And so that is the purpose of paragraph 1, a history lesson on it, and then what it is that daylight saving time actually is. So it's giving us sort of a definition of what it involves, which is, again, moving the clocks ahead an hour and back 1 hour. And that's the purpose of paragraph 1. Therefore, writers, we do not need paragraph 1 for our essay. So now we're going to move on to paragraphs 2 and 3. Now, I do want to point out, writers, this idea of DST in America. So this is, here we have our title of this particular essay, and then we have what would be considered sort of a subtitle or a subheading, which would then say that, well, paragraphs 2 and paragraph 3, or paragraphs 2 and 3, really focus on DST in America. If I click over to page 2, then we move into a different heading, which looks at the benefits of DST. If I go to page 3, I look at the arguments against DST. And then if I go to page 4, I see paragraph 10, again, referring back to the arguments against DST. So just to be clear, I just want to focus that 2 and 3 are going to be focused on DST, daylight saving time in America. Let's go ahead and look at paragraphs 2 and 3 and see again, is this needed for us analyzing both positions presented in the article to determine which one is best supported as far as the arguments are concerned. Paragraph 2. For years following DST's US debut, cities could choose if and when they wanted to participate. However, by the 1960s, the open choice resulted in various cities throughout the United States using different times. These varying times created confusion, particularly for entertainment and transportation schedules. Imagine traveling across several states, each adhering to its own little time zone. Okay, this paragraph is really focused on, again, how it was, um, how we had choices across the country and how different cities basically made decisions. Well, do we want to use it? Do we not want to use it? And its effects on the public. Is that looking at the arguments for or against DST? No, it is not. Moving on to paragraph 3. In order to remedy the confusing situation, Congress established a start and stop date for DST when it passed the Uniform Time Act of 1966. Although this act helped clarify when DST went into effect around the country, cities were not required to use DST. To this day, parts of Arizona and all of Hawaii, for example, do not use DST. Okay, so this again is referring back to how DST was, how they addressed that confusion with the different cities and areas. And so, how Congress addressed it is from the Uniform Time Act, and then it helped sort of establish some sort of uniformity or conformity across the country, except for, as they mentioned in the paragraph, parts of Arizona and Hawaii, the entire state of Hawaii. Again, does this look at the arguments for or against daylight saving time? It does not. And so essentially, here, what I'm arguing, right, writers, is that paragraphs 1, 2, and 3 serve no purpose in our essay. They really, they serve a purpose for the reader, of course, but they serve no purpose in terms of can I use or should I use any of this information for my essay? And now we'll take a look at paragraphs 4, 5, and 6. Again, benefits of DST. Many studies have investigated the benefits and cost of DST. Research in the 1970s found that DST saved about 1% per day in energy costs. On average, most electricity used is for lighting and appliances. It makes sense that more sun at the end of the day meant less need for electricity. This follows right along with Ben Franklin's argument over 200 years ago. Okay, I'm going to pause for a minute, right, writers, to focus on this idea of what we have in this particular paragraph. Okay, so what we're seeing is we definitely have this idea of research in the 1970s found that DST saved about 1% per day in energy costs. Now, it's And it says many studies have investigated the benefits and cost of DST. And while this sounds like, well, this makes sense, and this is something that is used to support the benefits of DST. However, here is my issue. Do we know who conducted the studies or where the studies were conducted? Were they conducted by a government agency? Were they conducted by a university? We are not given any information about that. Then it says research in the 1970s. Do we understand who completed the research or anything about that research? All we are given, right, writers, is research in the 1970s. We don't know who conducted the research or what agency conducted the research. And so while this does give us information and it provides what would be considered data or quantitative information, for example, saying something like 1%, it saved about 1% per day in energy costs. So we're given quantitative information, but the data is not backed up with specificity. And so by specificity, I mean specific studies and specific research. And so, right, writers, I'm going to pause for a minute and I'm going to talk about that here in this particular paragraph. So, really, I'm making the body paragraphs first, and then I'll come back and make the introduction and conclusion. So, let's take a look again how I set that paragraph up. The article provides 3 paragraphs on the benefits of daylight saving time. However, in the first paragraph, specific information is not provided. For example, the article states, and then we've got our text evidence, and then we have the reader is not provided with any information about who or what conducted either the study or the research. And so now let's take a look at paragraph 5, right, writers. Supporters of DST also claim that more sunlight saves lives. Studies have indicated that traveling home from work or school in daylight is safer. Nearly 3 decades of research shows an 8 to 11% reduction in crashes involving pedestrians and a 6 to 10% decrease in crashes for vehicle occupants after the spring shift to DST. As specific as the data is, we don't know where the information is coming from. And so, right, writers, I'm going to elaborate on that. Okay, and so, right, writers, I've got my next sentence here after doing some editing. More specific data is provided in the second paragraph, focused on the benefits with the following. And then I give that obvious specific data, but we still don't have specific sources. And so I then bring up, and I'm probably going to use however again. However, again, the reader does not know who or what conducted the research. So while statistics, because that's essentially the data, so while statistics and data, or while statistics are provided, the reader does not have a source, is not given a specific source. So again, we don't know the source of the information. We don't know where it's coming from. Now let's take a look at paragraph 6, right, writers, and then we will take a look at our paragraph. Other studies reveal that, following a similar logic, DST reduces crime because people are out completing chores after their business or school day in sunlight, lessening their exposure to crimes that are more common after dark. Okay, again, notice, right, writers, that still says other studies, but we don't have specific information. And so, again, I would make the same argument. Okay, and so, right, writers, now we'll go ahead and look at the paragraph as a whole, and then we will move on to the next part. So, here we have the article provides 3 paragraphs on the benefits of daylight saving time. However, in the first paragraph, specific information is not provided. For example, the article states many studies have investigated the benefits and costs of DST. Research in the 1970s found that DST saved about 1% per day in energy costs. The reader is not provided with any information about who or what conducted either the study or the research. More specific data is provided in the second paragraph, focused on the benefits, with the following. Nearly 3 decades of research shows an 8 to 11% reduction in crashes involving pedestrians and a 6 to 10% decrease in crashes for vehicle occupants after the spring shift to DST. However, again, the reader does not know who or what conducted the research. So while statistics are provided, the So while statistics are provided, I was thinking and a lengthy time frame, meaning 3 decades. So while statistics are provided, the reader is not given a specific source. Finally, in the third paragraph, the article states that other studies reveal, yet again, no specific source is provided. In all 3 paragraphs explaining the benefits of DST, a source for the studies and research is is never provided. And so I think I need a transition word here, right, writers? Indeed, indeed, in all paragraphs explaining the benefits of DST, not once is a specific source provided. And so basically, what I'm saying is to determine which one is best supported. And so I'm essentially saying, therefore, and so essentially, I'm making my argument here. Therefore, the benefits lack sufficient support. Now I can go back and go to my, you know, first sentence for the first body paragraph, and that is to say the benefits lack specific support or lack support. And so I can say that lack sufficient support. Um, so I can say this. The article provides 3 paragraphs on the benefits of daylight saving time, yet each paragraph lacks sufficient support. And so, if you have seen previous videos, right, writers, you know that I always end where I begin. And so, the first sentence and the last sentence are usually either exactly the same or very similar to each other. And so, if you again subscribe and see other videos, you'll know that that's sort of my style. And I have a pretty lengthy argument here that I'm making as far as the benefits of DST. Now we're going to go into the next page, right, writers, where we're looking at the arguments against DST, which is essentially in 4 paragraphs, paragraphs 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right, let's take a look, right, writers, at paragraph 7, arguments against DST. Opponents of DST cite other studies that disagree with these outcomes. A 2007 study in California indicated that DST had little or no effect in energy consumption that year. A 3 year study of counties in Indiana showed that residents of that state spent 8.6 million more each year for energy, and air pollution increased after the state switched to DST. The researchers theorized that the energy jump was caused in part by increased use of air conditioning as a result of maximizing daylight hours. So they gave a 2007 study in California, and then they gave a 3 year study of counties in Indiana. Now, I know that they did not tell us, right, writers, specifically who conducted the study, in California and who conducted the study in Indiana. However, at least specific information is given in terms of, you know, at least we know it happened in California and we know it happened in Indiana. So let's take a look at how we would set this one up. Okay, so now I have this really long two examples here. Um, for example, the research learned where the research was conducted, a 2007 study in California, and then I have a 3-year study of counties in Indiana. And so I could say something like, here, um, the reader is provided with specific locations, California and Indiana. And now I can move on to paragraph 8, right, writers. Let's take a look at paragraph 8. Recent research has also brought into question the safety aspect of the yearly switch to and from DST. In one study, pedestrian fatalities from cars increased immediately after clocks were set back in the fall. Another study showed 227 pedestrians were killed in the week following the end of DST, compared with 65 pedestrians killed the week before DST ended. Okay, and so the shock of this is very interesting because they actually talk about deaths, but we still don't know the studies being provided. I could say something like, although no specific is provided in terms of the number of fatalities or the number of pedestrian fatalities, although no specific research is provided in terms of the number of pedestrian fatalities, telling readers or giving readers information or giving research readers data on how many people were actually killed is more compelling, is more compelling in terms of support, is more compelling. And I'm saying shocking, but really I'm saying it's more compelling to the reader, is more compelling than just explaining the number of fewer accidents. And just to be clear, right, writers, going back to the benefits, nearly 3 decades of research shows an 8 to 10, 11% reduction in crashes involving pedestrians. Then just explaining the decrease, the percentage decrease of crashes involving pedestrians. So let's look at that one more time, right, writers? Although no specific research is provided in terms of the number of pedestrian fatalities, giving readers data on how many people were actually killed, and I could say 227 pedestrians were killed compared with 65 pedestrians killed the week before. Um, so I can say giving readers data on how many people were actually killed. 227 pedestrians were killed. And so rather than saying killed twice, I can say giving readers data on how many people actually died. 227 pedestrians were killed is more compelling in terms of support against DST than just explaining the percentage decrease of crashes involving pedestrians. And so that's what I would say regarding that specific, as far as like, again, the compelling information versus just explaining the percentage decrease of crashes. And so, right, writers, now I move on to paragraph 9. And I'm going to go ahead and take paragraph 10 too because it's smaller. So I'm going to do 9 and 10 together, right, writers. Then we'll look at this next part. Again, I appreciate you enduring the process, as my dog is also um, battling this along with me. And hopefully, again, you're seeing how to set up your paragraph. And I will have this all in a larger essay format so that you're seeing, what I'm arguing here. Let's take a look now at paragraphs again, 9 and 10. The adjustment period drivers endure each year is a dangerous time for pedestrians, and daylight saving time may be the reason. Instead of a gradual transition in the morning or afternoon by just minutes of sunlight each day, the immediate shift of 1 hour forward or backward fails to provide drivers and pedestrians time to adjust. And then we go on to page 4 or paragraph 10 in this case. When you also consider the cost of the abrupt transition in terms of confusion caused by people who forget to adjust their clocks, opponents say any benefits gained by DST are simply not worth the trouble. In this case, they gave some elaboration on, the shock value of the pedestrian deaths and then elaborated on the experience of driving. And so I'm going to mention that in my next paragraph. In addition, the arguments the argument elaborates on the immediate shift of 1 hour. And again, I'm using this here. So I'm going to use this paragraph or this section, and I'm copying that. So, in addition, the argument elaborates on the immediate shift of 1 hour forward or backward fails to provide drivers and pedestrians time to adjust. In addition, the argument elaborates or further elaborates on why pedestrians are killed. In addition, the argument further elaborates on why pedestrians are killed. For instance, it is due to the immediate shift of 1 hour forward or backward fails to provide drivers and pedestrians time to adjust. Therefore, and going back, and going back up to the top here, right, writers, more specific information was provided. So I could say something like, therefore, um, not only is more specific information provided, in the arguments against DST, or in the arguments, not, therefore, not only is more specific information provided in the arguments, and therefore, more specific information is provided in the arguments. Therefore, more specific is information is provided and more elaboration is offered in the arguments, or I could say this, in the arguments against DST. And so I can say that, right, writers, therefore, more specific information is provided and more elaboration is offered in the or in the paragraphs arguing against DST. Let's say that. In the paragraphs arguing against DST. And let's go with that, right, writers. And so now we've got to write an introduction and a conclusion. And again, you could argue, well, you don't really need to do that. You could just go into the two paragraphs, which is absolutely fine, right, writers? I would still like to do a short introduction and a conclusion where, even if it's one or two sentences and we say it again at the end, where we just look at what the essay is about. And so I go back to what is offered here in this paragraph, in paragraph 2, as far as the question goes. And it says, in your response, analyze both positions presented in the article to determine which one is best supported, and use relevant specific evidence from the article to support your response. And so in this case, I might say something like, um, two positions are presented analyzing or two positions analyzing the positives and negatives of daylight savings time or daylight saving time. Two positions analyzing the positives and negatives of daylight saving time. And it looks like daylight saving time is capitalized, so I need to make sure I do that right, writers. That was a big one, and maybe you've been sitting on that, teething over that for a few hours. I say hours, it's almost been an hour, if not 1 hour or close to it. And so I appreciate you uh, patiently waiting for me to catch that. So I have two positions analyzing the positives and negatives, or you could say the pros and cons, um, depending on how you want to set it up. So if you wanted to go with that, you could. Analyzing the pros and cons, or the benefits and setbacks or drawbacks. The pros and cons of daylight saving time are provided. However, the position providing arguments against turning the clocks ahead 1 hour and behind 1 hour does a better job in terms of support. And I could then basically copy this section, and then I'm going to end my paragraph with that, or my essay with that. And I could even say this essay, will examine why. Okay. And then I'm going to put that at the end. And instead of better job, I might say offers more compelling data in terms of support. However, the position providing arguments against turning the clocks ahead 1 hour and behind 1 hour offers more compelling data in terms of support. Okay. Now, right writers, I have my essay completed. And so, what I want to do, right writers, and is I'm going to go ahead and copy the entire essay, and we will go through that essay together. And so I'm going to go ahead and move that into a Google Doc, and then we will review how the essay looks in its entirety. And so, thank you again, right writers, for sticking it out, because this really is a process of, you know, understanding how to write an essay, evaluating the arguments presented by a writer, both arguments against something and benefits of something, or arguments where they support something. And so, really, I hope this is helping you by taking it so slowly and in a step by step format. Again, I apologize for the length, but it's important to be able to make your point known and to pass that GED, or to understand, how do I evaluate arguments? How do I do that? And this video, I think, will help you in terms of that. Okay, so right writers, what I did was moving this over to a Google Doc. You can really see how this essay looks. Now let's take a look at the actual essay that was completed, and again, do any follow up edits as I close out this video. All right, right writers, here we go. We're going to take it from the top here. Two positions analyzing the pros and cons of daylight saving time are provided. However, the position providing arguments against turning the clocks ahead 1 hour and behind 1 hour does a better job in terms of support. This essay will examine why. And then we start our um, body paragraph. The article provides, and I think I'll say the article begins with three paragraphs on, nope, because it doesn't begin with that. It begins with the history. Um, I think I'm going to change this. While the article provided three paragraphs on the benefits of daylight saving time, each paragraph lacks sufficient support. In the first paragraph, specific information is not provided. For example, the article states many studies have investigated the benefits and cost of DST. Let me try that again, right, writers? I just made some edits, but I want to open the quotation, close the quotation to remind you to do that. While the article provided 3 paragraphs on the benefits of daylight saving time, each paragraph lacks sufficient support. In the first paragraph, specific information is not provided. For example, the article states, quote, many studies have investigated the benefits and costs of DST. Research in the 1970s found that DST saved about 1% per day in energy costs. Close quotation. The reader is not provided with any information about who or what conducted either the study or the research. More specific data is provided in the second paragraph, focused on the benefits, with the following. Quote, nearly 3 decades of research shows an 8 to 11% reduction in crashes involving pedestrians and a 6 to 10% decrease in crashes for vehicle occupants after the spring shift to DST. End quote. However, again, the reader does not know who or what conducted the research. So while statistics are provided, the reader is not given a specific source. Finally, in the third paragraph, the article states that, quote, other studies reveal, end quote. Yet again, no specific source is provided. Indeed, in all paragraphs explaining the benefits of DST, not once is a specific source mentioned. Because I said provided a few times, so I'm going to change that mentioned. Therefore, the benefits lack sufficient support. And now moving on to the next paragraph. However, so I'm going to change this transition word here. However, when the article presented arguments explaining the negative impacts of DST, more specific information was provided. For example, the reader learned where the research was conducted. Quote, a 2007 study in California indicated that DST had little or no effect on energy consumption that year. A 3 year study of counties in Indiana showed that residents of that state spent $8.6 million more each year for energy, and air pollution increased after the state switched to DST. Here, the reader is provided with specific locations, California and Indiana. Although no specific source is provided in terms of, quote, pedestrian fatalities, unquote, giving readers specific data on how many people actually died, 227 pedestrians were killed, is more compelling in terms of support against DST than just explaining the percentage decrease of crashes involving pedestrians. In addition, the argument further elaborates on why pedestrians are killed. For instance, it is due to the quote, immediate shift of 1 hour forward or backward fails to provide drivers and pedestrians time to adjust. Therefore, more specific information is provided and more elaboration is offered in the paragraphs arguing against DST. Okay, there's a little bit of a rough transition here between basically this and this one. So I need a transition sentence right here, right, writers? So I'm going to go ahead and add that. Um, or I'm sorry, not there, but between this sentence and this part right here. Here, the reader is provided with specific locations, California and Indiana. Then, in the next paragraph, the article discusses the number of pedestrian fatalities, giving readers specific data on how many people actually died. Then, in the next paragraph, the article discusses the number of pedestrian fatalities, giving readers specific data on how many people actually died. 227 pedestrians were killed. Even though no source, or although no source is provided, the data is more compelling than just explaining the percentage decrease of crashes involving pedestrians. Okay, for me, right riders, that is a little bit of a better transition from here to this part right here. Okay, now ending the paragraph here. Therefore, more specific information is provided and more compelling elaboration is offered in the paragraphs arguing against DST. Two positions, and rather than saying pros and cons again, I might change that to, let's say if I wanted to say positives and negatives, or if I say benefits and drawbacks, it's a little bit similar. So I'm going to go with that. Two positions analyzing the positives and negatives, the positive and negative impacts of daylight saving time are provided. However, the position um, arguing against turning the clocks ahead 1 hour and behind 1 hour offers more compelling data, more specific and compelling data in terms of support. Okay. And so, right writers, I made some adjustments to this particular essay, but just wanted you to see again the process from start to finish. And now I'm going to do a word count. I'm going to call this a GED essay. And I'm going to do a word count because I really want to know how many words I have here, right, writers, to give you, sometimes an idea. It's helpful to know how many words we have so that, again, when you're in the GED situation, or you're sitting there writing an essay and you're trying to figure out, okay, how many words did she actually create? So I have 462 words and a total of 2,945 characters, excluding the spaces, 2,483 characters. So again, it's giving you a heads up on, okay, how many words are we looking at here? How many characters are we talking about here? So just keep that in mind, right, writers, just to give you some quantitative data as far as, the length of time it took me to set all this up. And again, just looking at my time as I've been recording this video, I'm at right now, and again, I'm talking about not really editing here, but in terms of how long it's taken me without editing the video, this essay is supposed to be taking you 45 minutes. And as far as this video is concerned, recording wise, I'm already at an hour and 30 minutes. And so, again, that gives you an understanding of once I edit the video, we're already at 90 minutes. I, including, yes, reading the passage, not including, of course, editing the video, but that gives you an overview of the process as far as this GED essay is concerned. And so, with that said, right, writers, I hope you have a great rest of your week. And again, for my students who are looking at passing your GED, I hope that this video ensures your success. Or to my students who are looking at how do you um, crews evaluate an argument. Thank you again, right, writers. Take care. Love you guys. Have a great rest of your week. Bye bye.